Typical record deal is structured something like this. The record label gives in advance, say $250,000 to the artist to record an album. The artist then records the album. Suppose that the album sells 500,000 copies at $10 each, yielding $5 million. The record label then takes their cut out of the $5 million, typically 85% of the total sales, leaving the artist with $750,000. But before the artist receives any payments, the label first deducts the advance. In addition, the record label recoups other costs such as recording costs, half the promotion costs, half the video costs, and tour support. This leaves the artist $425,000 in debt to the record label. And then this debt gets carried on to the next album, and the next album.
But see, this is the thing, and I'm not trying to diminish anybody's character at all, but sometimes when you're coming up in a profession like this, the people that brought you in, they don't know no more than what you know.
Mm.
So that's part of the problem as well. You got a whole lot of inexperienced people who are just ignorant to how the industry works and how paperwork works, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like we didn't know back then that we got to get a lawyer to watch this lawyer and this account to look over this accountant's books, you know, like we didn't know, we didn't have that lesson back then.
Wow.
So thing is literally trial and error. And
the music industry, they have a plan, and that plan may not stretch. They're not looking out for you. They're looking out for their business. So we understand that. But in the you're still taking advantage, especially the kids, the young adults. If you don't, they're not going to tell you to go get an attorney. They're not going to explain to you the contract. So you're so excited that this is your shot. You're going to now be in the music industry, in the entertainment industry. And they may put 4 things in front of you, and you say, well, you know what, I'll sign these 2, and then I'll have someone look at the other 2. But those other 2 may be binding for the rest of your life. Wow. So this industry they know what they're doing, and it's up to each individual to make sure that you're looking out for your back, or you have someone looking out for you.
Did you guys, when you got signed, did you know about publishing and ownership and right or credits and all that stuff? Or were you just like, wow, here's Puffy and dancing and stuff and just writing and gave everything away for free? What was it? You've got a manager. Did you know about all this stuff?
Well, I would just have to say that, you know, all of us, we all came from the same neighborhood. So it's not like we were, you know, we didn't go to school. There were no music classes, or you know, we didn't. Nobody had music degrees. So it was one of those things of the school of hard knocks that, you know what I'm saying, we had to learn. But you know what though, wouldn't have it no other way, because you know, we're, you know, Mike and myself, we're quite savvy with, you know, what's going on now because of that situation. And I mean, if you ask anybody from the 90s at that era, that, you know, we all went through it, you know what I'm saying, especially your first project. You know what I mean? This is how the 90s was built.
I started learning, oh my God, imagine if I had written this song. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, as an artist, it's not about that. The money, it's not about the money for you starting out. Yeah. But when it becomes your life's blood, then it has to be also, you know what I mean? So it was around that time when I started learning about where my money was going, publishing wise, and what I had given up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you know, now I'm at that age, you don't know what you're doing, you know, and I have, you know, my parents were behind me the whole time, but you feel like, oh, they don't know anything about this industry. I know what I'm doing. And you wind up signing things you really should not have been signing, you know. Wow. It happens. That's exactly what happened to me. Did not understand the industry at all. But you know what? I came out in one piece. But that's what happens, especially when the younger you are. This industry will try to put you in some situations that you don't want to be in.
How much of the business side of the industry did you know coming in? Because as I said, you've got your dad's history to know what was going on.
Zero. Man, if I had to do it all over again, it'd be totally different. And you probably speak to 98% of the artists, they would probably the same. They would tell you the same thing. They knew zero things about the business. And what artists fail to realize, it is called the music business. To be the business of music, that's what it should be, you know. But
it was Arista, boy. Yeah. It was Arista, Bad Boy, Kalimia. That was the production deal. 112.
Okay.
So we were signed to Kalimia, who then signed themselves to Bad Boy, who was signed to Arista.
Yeah.
So the administrative deal. Yes.
Yeah. So you can understand the trickle down effect. So by the time Arista gave us $1 million, by the time it got to us, it was $12,000 a piece. You know what I'm saying? But we were still on the hook for that $1 million though.
Yeah. So that Kalimia, was that Puffy's stuff, or was that somebody else?
No, that was the manager / production company. So that was the conflict of interest right there in and of itself. He was the manager and the production company at the same time.
I mean, you learn the hard way, man. You know, it's nothing worse than seeing, you know, when your bank account don't match your popularity or your fame. And then that's when you try to start reverse engineering your career and try to pick up the pieces. Okay, where's the money? You know, you got millions of fans, but where's the millions of dollars at some point? Then you go back, and then that's when it becomes important.
But how did it change you, the fame and success, and the money? How much did that change your personality?
You know what? Again, especially with publishing and all that stuff, I didn't know how many people were involved. I knew, like, for instance, with my publishing, it wasn't only me. You know, there was 10, 15 other artists, producers that signed that same piece of paper, you know, excuse me. So I didn't take it personally. You know, my parents, God rest their souls, it wasn't a good thing. And my parents said, well, this company and this man, they're in this for business. They're not in here to be your friends. Mm-hmm. So they did business, and you got taken advantage of. You know, you gotta learn. You know, and then by that time, now I have representation and management and lawyers, but it's too late. Nothing you could do unless you do it the way Teddy did it. You know,
like, who does that? Who put contracts in front of you and say sign it?
Without
what? And it was a thick contract. It wasn't no little contract. So I heard Damien said, oh, it was just a paper like that. Now, Gene used to pull little Don King tricks, get you to sign the 3 or 4 papers or whatever. Or it come back like a dictionary. I wasn't going to do it. And it was, again, I told you this last time, it wasn't that I was studying to be an attorney, whatever. I always go by my spirit. And in my spirit, oh, hell no. You think we gonna just, not the first thing on it, the first word on that in the paragraph I seen, I'm like, what? This mean this I went back and looked it up. That means forever. Man, forever. I use another word. He gotta be sick. So I played it for a long time, like, oh, I just didn't get around to it. Oh, I let days go by. Oh, but I was never planning on signing it. I told Aaron and Teddy that same night. I said, we not sign. I said, we. And that's when Teddy said, yo, man, but this is going to make us.
How come you didn't have a lawyer like Mel had when you again signed with the Mantronics? I mean,
you know what's funny? My lawyer, well, think about this, right? I'm a kid from New York. I don't know lawyers.
Yeah.
I don't got no lawyers on my block. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no lawyers in my community. I don't know no lawyers. So my first lawyer was Mantronic's attorney was Steve Shapiro, who's a big entertainment attorney. Steve gave me my lawyer.
He's a
professor. Yeah. I thought it was a good thing. He's like, oh, this guy's great. He was my teacher. I'm like, oh shit, I got the teacher. I got an advantage. Wasn't no advantage. His name was Seymour Feig. I don't know if he had dementia or what, but it was like he was a character, and he just made me sign whatever. To be honest, Amel's lawyer wasn't a great lawyer. He was just, lawyers are deal makers or deal breakers, and hers was a deal breaker. I think he was looking out for his client, but I think he also was trying to direct it somewhere where he can get a bigger check and have more control.
Yeah,
what was going on? Yeah.
The first, you're just having fun. You're all around the world. You got cars. Then at some point, like, okay, well, where's my money? Then it becomes about the money, because you don't. That's not what you set out to do. You just want the music heard. You want to be on stage. You want, this and that. Then when the lights go off, the curtains close, then it's time to pay the bills. Then where's the money? You know what I'm saying? Wow. So it comes to that. So, and I'm sure every artist has the same story. Every athlete probably the same story. Some artists are lucky to have their parents that got them, or have, people in their corners, but a lot of artists are not. You just have to learn the hard way.
Our intent was not to leave Bad Boy. We were not, our initial intent was not to leave. Our intent was to be, to get out from under the production deal that we were signed to through Bad Boy, which was taking, what, 80% of what, 40%, I'm sorry, 40% of everything that we made. So from advances to touring, to shows, to anything that we made, endorsements, advertisement, anything that we made, the production company that we were signed to took 40% of it. So we were tired of, giving our money away basically for free.
It's unfortunately part of the learning experience. Hopefully people coming into the industry now, you listen to the people that were in the game before you, and understand what this is all about. This ain't games. This ain't making music. It's a business.
When I look at these artists now and see how much money they get, I'm like, shit.
We came out too early.
Like, yo, they getting paid.
Yeah. But
I love it though. Like, whenever I get an opportunity to tell somebody these stories and these lessons that I had. I mean, I have put a lot of the stuff in my book as well, but I love it. I love to see the new artists today that's just doing their thing, man.
Financially, it was a better situation. You know what I mean? Definitely better.
Never would have made that money. No, we'd have never made that money.
At Bad Boy, we would have never made that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? That we made at Def Jam.
R&B and pop artists. Like, the pop artists got the best of everything. So if you're a white artist, you're automatically put in a playing field where you're exposed to the masses. Everything that's going to come to you if you succeed is going to be massive. So they're the first in line, and it's terrible that it's that way. But R&B artists, we have to fight for something to cross over to be considered pop. So even if I made the poppiest record, right, then, and that's not, it's still the same, unfortunately. But if I set out and said, I'm going to write a pop record, because I have actually written pop records for other artists and other people. If I recorded that same record, it would be put in a whole different category.
Wow.
So let's just say, the game was just set up for them to win, more so than it was for Black artists.
Did you, being in the industry, did you think that it is more geared towards Black artists not getting treated fairly, and compared, because especially since I was on Warner Bros., you might have seen the disparity?
Sure. That's a good question, Andy. And I think what it is especially in a situation with Uptown or a Def Jam, which were boutique labels. They weren't the big multi-conglomerate that Columbia or Warner Brothers or MCA at the time. So these are small businesses. They don't have a lot of capital to spend out and take care, have a bevy of attorneys to look over things. So those quote unquote, those Black small labels, No, they're not. They're in business too. They could be out of business the next year. So they really have to try to, I'm not going to say that not try to take advantage of people, but those contracts are going to be really heavy towards the label. Now, a situation that you just explained with Take Six, signed to a major, they want to do, because they want to do business correctly. They're going to be around. But those smaller labels, they don't have that protection. They could, as I said, they could be out on the street tomorrow, just like the artist. So that I saw that, in the industry, that, those newer companies, they're definitely looking out for themselves. And they say, well, you're not losing anything because you're new to this industry. So I think that they feel that if we both grow together, maybe the contracts will be a little bit more fair.
Okay.
They doing anything. And if you've been following me, I love me some her. Like, I love her. That's my little baby. And I just see her she's just blossoming. Just being a musician.
Yeah.
She ain't naked. She ain't selling ass.
Yeah.
Just getting paid to be a musician. Yeah. And that is heard of nowadays.
In my Sony catalog is all the Beatles music, all of, Little Richard's music. I own Sly and the Family Stone. I own Elvis, so many Elvis songs, and it's a huge catalog. It's very valuable. It's worth a lot of money, and there is a big fight going on right now as we speak about that. Now, I can't say whether or not. I can't comment on it. There's a lot of conspiracy. I'll say there's a lot of conspiracy going on as we...
Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the Halftime Chat community. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. But most importantly, why don't you consider being a member? That's a way of supporting the channel, but also getting a lot of videos ahead of time, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and some exclusive content that doesn't get shared. But anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks for being part of Halftime Chat.